Good morning. Welcome to the Namako Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Dr. Clare, and I'm so lucky and grateful to be the intern minister for this really beautiful congregation. I have missed you all over the past month because I've been living in Canyon City for the month of December because of Godpsell I've been working on for the past 6 months with over 150 people who are incarcerated in Canyon City. So throughout everything today, you'll see pictures. This is a rehearsal shot. You'll see rehearsal shots, and you'll see some photos from the actual production, as well as we talk a lot about that. And I understand as you use sometimes even just the word Godspell is a little like. And I'm right there with you. So I want to say something that I said at the beginning of each performance before we started. I said something to the effect of, no matter what your idea of God is when you walk in the room today, you can bring that here. If you don't have any idea of who God is, bring that too. And along the way, we had 3 guys in the cast who were deaf. And so we learned a number of things in ASL. And I learned the sign for God in ASL is here. But what's really wonderful about ASL is it's unique to each person and it changes within each context. And so for us, in the context of Godspell, when we signed the word God, we took it from here and we put it here. And so what you're going to hear and think about throughout the day today is our experience of God happening between us, right? God is this experience of love that happens between people. And I think that's particularly important when we're thinking about coming in from the outside into prison. And the other thing I want to begin the service with today is just a reflection back to you as Namakwa. Because a lot of UU ministry is about doing the work, getting out and getting your boots dirty and being on the ground with people. And that's what Godspell was for me. But you as a congregation have trusted me to do that. You as a congregation said, you, Claire, this is going to be an important part of your ministry and we want to celebrate that. And so I want to offer today's service with a real sense of gratitude for that, because it's a gift that you supported me in that. And so I want to reflect back some of the transformation, some of the amazing moments that happened for me along this journey. This work doesn't just happen alone, but it happens in community. And a big part of our community is sitting with us together this morning. And so I invite you to begin with a hug or a handshake or a high five for the people around you. Take a moment to greet the people around you.
Each week, we remember that we are a promise-making, promise-breaking, and promise-remaking people. We are not asked to be perfect, only that we are here to care for each other. So I'd ask you now to join me in speaking our covenant as a reminder of the promises that we make each week in this congregation. It's on the screen and in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
The Gospel of Matthew is a tricky text to adapt into a musical. If you know it, Jesus is depicted in this gospel as the harshest and strictest version of himself. The text makes an interesting pairing with the playful and imminently singable musical that Stephen Schwartz creates in the Godspell. Yet these two sides of Jesus feel appropriate to me for doing the show in prison. The righteous and tough face of judgment masks the more tender and hopeful self within. Schwartz forces us to engage with the full humanity of Jesus in the play. He leaves divinity to our imagination and our own theological understandings. He doesn't even mention it. And in doing that, he creates an opportunity for us to see Jesus as just another part of a community, surrounded by those who love him and those whom he loves. The community is a safe place for exploration and play. It's a place where everyone can step into their highest self and look fabulous doing it. It's a place for deep knowing and difficult truths, and I call it a sacred place. It's theater. And over the past 6 months, we made a community together within it. We included over 150 people who are incarcerated throughout the journey. Some of them you'll see in the slides today. The work of the play was not just a celebration of who you're witnessing, but of everyone who put in the enormous effort to dream and craft and build this world together. Our eyes, as I said, were not set on the heavens looking for big answers, but they're locked with yours in the world. We are in this together. And whether you walked into that theater that we made out of a gym in green or blue or street clothes, whether you walked in this morning with curiosity or courage or concern, it's our hope that you'll join in finding your more tender and more hopeful self within our beloved community.
Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Come, let us worship together. Today's wisdom story is a retelling of Matthew's The Sheep and the Goats, and I'm going to ask for your participation. So go wild, please. Toward the end of the second act of Godpsell, the parable of the sheep and the goats launches the musical into the 11 o'clock number. It's the biggest and most joyful moment in the show, and the writers chose this story from Matthew's Gospel to incite it. As you hear throughout the service, though, I've reworked the bits to make them a little more you. But the key message is one which speaks to my own commitment to justice in the world. Do you want to come be sheep and goats with us? Thank you so much. Okay, great. So if you're on this side, you're going to be the sheep in the story. If you're on this side, you're going to be the goats in the story. What do we think? What do you want to do? Sheep? Good. Okay, can I hear all the sheep? Ready, set, let's hear you. Great. Can I hear all the goats over here? Now, I'm going to ask that our sheep are going to become angelic, really heavenly, beautiful sheep. Can I hear it again? Go. Oh, it's so beautiful. And the goats, unfortunately, are the opposite of that. Can I hear you here? Nice. You can get your hands into it a little bit if you want. You can get some hooves going on. This is kind of fun too. All right. Now I know the children are already terrified. Okay. There was once a shepherd who was tending a herd of sheep on his right and a herd of goats on his left. The sheep would frolic joyfully in the meadows, eating grass together, building each other's homes, tending to their sick, and caring for those in need. The goats, on the other hand, divided their land into parcels, and they refused to help each other. They took care of themselves, and they disparaged everyone else. Well, at night, the shepherd was cold, and he had to decide where to sleep, with the sheep or with the goats. Well, he thought about it, and he thought about it, wondering which community he would rather be a part of. Would it be better for him to spend his nights with creatures who would feed him when he was hungry, who would give him something to drink when he was thirsty, who would clothe him and care for him, who would visit him when he was in need? Or should he take his chances with the stingy goats who only care for themselves? It comes as no surprise the shepherd chose to spend the night with the sheep, who built him a bed and brought him good things to eat and drink. Meanwhile, the goats became angry. And they shouted and huffed and puffed and bleated about, and they said, the next morning they came to him and they had words with the shepherd. The goats hollered at the shepherd, promising him that they too would have made him a bed and brought him food and drink. He was, after all, the shepherd. But the shepherd replied, if you cannot care for each other, how can you care for me? Take a big breath in. Let it go. I'm going to invite any of our kiddos going to RE to join Janin in the back. We'll invite them out. So when you're ready, you can go for it. Thank you, sheep and goats. Ross Gay has this really beautiful book of poetry called The Book of Delights. And in it, he describes joy in this way that I love. He says, because in trying to articulate what perhaps joy is, it's occurred to me that among other things, the trees and the mushrooms have shown me this, joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union between us. Joy is the mostly invisible, the underground union between us. And so with this in our heart and our mind, I'm going to invite us into a space of meditation. And I just invite you to be comfortable in your seat, whatever that looks like for you. Enter, rejoice, and go out. Into the world. And I'll just invite your eyes to be closed or down, whatever is comfortable for you. And to take a big breath in and let it go. And another big breath in and let it go. And one more big breath in and let it go. And in this space, just present with yourself, I invite you to think back to a memory, to a single time when you could look in someone's face and see joy. You know that look when their eyes are glistening, maybe they're smiling, or maybe they're in awe. Maybe it's a moment of wonder you had together. Maybe it's the deepest experience of connection that you share with someone. Think back to that moment. Take a moment to freeze it. Capture it like a picture. Look into that person's eyes, knowing that they see you with all this joy they have in their heart. And knowing that you see them in this beautiful spot. And I invite you to reach out with your hand to just hold their face. Hold them in that moment of joy, maybe letting your thumb glide across their cheek. Letting your fingertips in their ear or their hair. Hold them in that beautiful, invisible, underground connection you have together. If you want, you can reach out and touch the rest of them, their eyebrows, maybe in surprise, down to their chin, their eyes gleaming, maybe with tears or maybe with delight. And when you're ready, you can let your hand float down and bring it over to your face to hold your face for a second. And see if you can match their joy on your face. Feel it move into your cheeks and your eyes and your forehead. Feel it move into your lips and your chin. Just take a moment to see them and to let them see you in this memory of joy. You're ready. I just invite you to thank them for this moment in your heart. Thank them for the beauty of this memory that you can go back to anytime you need. Maybe reach out and touch them one more time. You're ready. Put that memory back deep inside your heart. I invite us to take a big breath in and to let it go. And to arrive back here in this space with each other. Ingrid Fattel-Lee writes, neuroscientists monitored guitarists playing a short melody together, and they found that patterns in the guitarist's brain activity became synchronized. Similarly, studies of choir singers have shown that singing aligns performers' heart rates. Music seems to create a sense of unity on a physiological level. Scientists call this phenomenon synchrony and have found that it can elicit some surprising behaviors. In studies where people sang or moved in a coordinated way with others, researchers found that subjects were significantly more likely to help out a partner with their workload or sacrifice their own gain to benefit the group. And when participants rocked in chairs to the same tempo, they performed better on a cooperative task than those who rocked at different rhythms. Synchrony shifts our focus away from our needs toward the needs of the group. In large social gatherings, this can give rise to a euphoric feeling of openness dubbed collective effervescence by Emil Durkheim, which elicits a blissful, selfless absorption into community. This is the moment in our service each week when we hold space for the joys and the sorrows of our community. And in responding to them, I invite us to have a sense of synchrony today by just letting our hearts tap together. This is an important gesture that we use throughout Godspell as we're working, because every time something would come up for someone, maybe something really beautiful or maybe something really hard, we just take a moment to feel our hearts beat together. And there's this other idea that I love, that if you take heart cells from two different people, they continue beating until you put them in a petri dish, and then they begin to beat together in the same rhythm. And so we have a chance to hold each other in that. So I would invite anyone to begin for us to welcome you into our community this morning. Do we have any visitors for the first, second, or maybe even third time today? Would like to say hello? Great. Say hi.
Hi.
Can you say your name?
Hi, I'm Avery.
Avery, we're so glad you're here. Let's give Avery a heartbeat. Thank you. Other folks? Great.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'm new.
Thanks for being with us, Robin. Let's sync our heart up with Robin. Other folks?
Hello, I'm Julie, and this is my first visit.
Other folks?
Hello, I'm Sherry, and I'm Avery's Nana. I just moved here from Utah after 57 years there, and I can't even begin to tell you how precious it is that I found you so soon. This is wonderful.
I'm so glad you're here. Do we have anyone on Zoom? Oh, right in front of me. That's okay.
Hi, I'm Sandy, and I'm here with my daughter and granddaughter. We have about 3.5 years ago, we moved to Colorado from California, and we're living, my husband and I are living in Windsor. So I'm visiting today.
Welcome,
And it's
Sandy.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to open up for folks to share joys or sorrows that are personal to them, joys and sorrows in the community.
I'm Julie, and I have a joy that is also a sorrow. My stepdad was able to participate in the MAID program, which is amazing. It's the Medical Assistance in Dying program. So he was able to not suffer and go in peace, but he did leave us last week.
Let's just let our hearts beat for a second holding Julie close and your family.
I'm Fran, and my joy is that my 11-year-old granddaughter, who just turned 11 about a week ago, got to be one of the children holding the flag for the opening ceremonies of the Nuggets game Friday night. Now, I would also like to make a comment in defense of goats. My whole life, I've wanted a pet goat. I've never had one. That's one of the 3 things my father would not let me have that I wanted. I've forgotten the third one. The other was a yellow thunderbird. Anyway, I continue to be a great fan of goats. And my house is filled with goats. All sizes, all shapes, all fabrics. I just love goats. And I think that verse in the Bible has always troubled me, because I think goats have great value. They can provide milk, they can provide meat, they can provide sustenance for a poor family. So just speaking in defense of goats.
So in celebration and our hearts really syncing up with the love of goats, we connect. Other folks?
My name is Rob, and I've got two sorrows and a joy. The sorrow is that the first sorrow is that last week our son-in-law lost his father after a battle with lymphoma, and it happened sort of seemingly moments after he came home on hospice, and obviously they were having a difficult time. And his father was a great man, and I just prayers for all of the family. The second sorrow is slightly more distant. On Wednesday, it will have been 2 years since the sudden death of my son, and we're remembering him this week, Nick. And when we were imagining joy, my image was of Nick with a grin as he had 2 cats on his lap, because he was one of the biggest animal whisperers I've ever known. And I think to celebrate on Wednesday, we're going to go to the Cat Cafe in Loveland. And then the joy is Nick's twin is going to be going to CSU starting in a little over a week, and they got into the program, and they got into the dorms, and it's just a great transition to see them be able to make. So
holding you and your family deep in our hearts. Folks.
I'm Donna, and very happy, joyful that my mom joined us today, and my daughter Taylor, and feeling synchrony with Claire, because I have studied and read a lot about synchrony and movement as a dancer, and I'm in the process of applying that to my work. And by getting people in manufacturing environments to learn how to move together for like just simple stretch programs, but really trying to capitalize on all the benefits of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Celebrating that. Yeah.
I just have a joy acknowledging our community member, Clay Rover's birthday yesterday, and gratitude and getting to celebrate.
Happy birthday.
I have a sorrow and a joy, but the sorrow is also a joy. Right now, and we're here on our house. The joy is that there's materials available to be able to
that there's easy done, but the sorrow is that I miss it terribly, and it's very, very hard to feel like walk along with someone good. Keep going. However, the other joy is while he's gone, our entire dining room table is a cracked bonanza. It's something myself is bittersweet.
Cam, do we have anyone on Zoom? Okay, thank you. So after I leave prison each week, it is really, which my parents love this joke, it's ongoing. But I find that I just need time to be quiet because there's just too much to be able to hold. And so for years and years and years, I played this next song that we're going to sing together, this Nina Simone song, as soon as I leave, to just be in it and to just hold that as a ritual space for myself. And so I invite it also as a space for you of reflection, as a space to hold the joys and the sorrows of our community right now, as a space to hold the joys and sorrows that we haven't mentioned and those that are even bigger in the world.
Sea, and I'd see
I get the privilege today of sharing some more of Clare's words. He says there is something powerful about reworking ancient texts to make them our own. Here at Namakwa, we're part of what's called the living tradition. We continue to grow and dream anew while being rooted in our UU history, which arises from the Christian tradition. We hope you might take these humanist beatitudes as beautiful phrases honoring those around us in our time. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for their doors are always open. Blessed are the prisoners, for they challenge us to see. Blessed are those who mourn, for they teach us how to honor our sorrow. Blessed are the addicts, for they are not alone. Blessed are the meek, for they know wonder. Blessed are the lonely, for their lives matter. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled with the feast of justice. Blessed are the unhoused, for the warmth of their hearts challenges us to care. Blessed are the merciful, for they help us to dream beyond retribution. Blessed are the playful, for they are present in this moment. Blessed are the undocumented, for their journeys defy confinement. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will help to soften our hearts. Blessed are the queers. I couldn't even say that word a few years ago. Blessed are the queers, for they dream our tomorrows into being. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for they teach us how to live our values. Blessed are you, for you are alive. Thank you. As we prepare to receive our monetary offerings, we want to thank you in advance for your support of the work of this congregation and all the ways that we can live our values in the world because of your generosity. When Tom and I first visited and attended this congregation, a tradition that made a lasting impression on us was that Namakwa chose a nonprofit each quarter to share the offering with, giving away half of our offering to a nonprofit whose values align with our congregation. Talk about faith. In this new quarter, half of our offering will go to Homeward Alliance, an organization working with the City of Loveland to help solve homelessness issues. Now, can you imagine or envision a community in which homelessness is rare, short-lived, and non-recurring? That is what Homeward Alliance is envisioning, and you will be a part of that because of your generosity. Blessed are the unhoused, for the warmth of their hearts challenges us to care. Thank you for your generosity.
When I was in graduate school in New York City creating experimental theater professionally, I was convinced by the world I lived in that real theater, true art, contained an ineffable but critical component of individual suffering. The tortured artist should slog through the city to create an insightful piece of humanity replete with often ironic woes and unsparing criticism. I was taught that the work of theater was to be transformative, but such a change could only happen by witnessing the hardships of our world on stage in real and abstract ways. Musical theater, for many of my friends and colleagues, was a distraction, a dilution of the power of the art form. It was worlds apart from the real work. Musical theater was for, dare I say it, tourists. Last month, after over a decade of experience creating theater with people who are incarcerated, I closed a production of the musical Godspell with 150 residents involved, and that was transformative. And yes, there was suffering. Prisons themselves breed suffering through isolation and dehumanization. Making a musical in 2 prisons with so many participants and professional equipment was taxing. Rehearsing in tight rooms with so many people was difficult. Creating musical orchestrations on prison instruments was challenging. Designing and building a set and costumes with props and materials that had to be cleared and accounted for on endless checklists was Sisyphusian. Sisyphus in Greek mythology is the king who somehow eluded death twice and was punished for eternity by Hades, who devised the unbearable task of rolling a boulder up a hill only for it to roll back down over and over again. The philosopher Albert Camus, in writing about Sisyphus and the absurd nature of the world, challenges us to think about this ancient myth by demanding that we imagine Sisyphus to be happy. In fact, he writes, we must do so. Happiness is oftentimes thought of as the opposite of suffering. But happiness is elusive and singular. It is something we're sold as a solution to our individual pains. Sisyphus could very well be happy for eternity. Through the process of creating a musical in prison, we could have decided to be happy amidst suffering. We could have decided our individual happiness was enough to drive us forward. We could have each done our thing and then left with a smile on our faces, none the wiser about those around us. But for me, that was never an option. The antithesis of suffering is not happiness, it's joy. Suffering and happiness can happen in isolation. They can live inside of us, but joy defies that logic. Joy forces us into relationship. As Roske writes, joy is the most invisible, the underground union between us. This union flowing between us is the real opportunity of theater. Joy can be the spiritual labor of actors and crew and audience members alike coming together to create a shared experience of justice that rolls down like waters. Those waters create what French sociologist Emile Durkheim calls collective effervescence. Collective effervescence is the sparkling experience of joy which bubbles up through shared experience in beloved community. As I reflect over the past 6 months, I'm struck again and again by moments of collective effervescence. I am moved by the willingness and work of choosing joy in the most horrific of places that happened every time we chose to step into a meeting or rehearsal together. I am awestruck by the incredible impact that even small moments of joy can have in our lives. In preparing for this sermon, I struggled to narrow down these moments to a few that could fit neatly into a narrative. So instead of cramming inside those boundaries, I decided to follow my own advice when it comes to glitter and most good things in life. More is more. It brings a smile to my face to share a few moments of collective effervescence, a few experiences of joy that grew out of creating a world together. Like the fact that 4 men saw their mothers after a performance for the first time in over a decade. Or one man who told me yesterday he hadn't seen his brother in 17 years until he came to see him in the show. Along with memories of a whole lot of nonsense talking before a breakdance battle, which brought everyone in the rehearsal room to their feet, chapping, clapping, and cheering for one man who's 52 and another man who was 27 breakdancing against each other. There was the experience of a trans woman trying on dress after dress for performance, receiving compliment after compliment for the first time in her life. Or the moment in rehearsal when one man asked to do a solo dance for his mother because she loved to see him dance, and he didn't know if he'd ever be able to show her that again. And everyone in the room cried. And there were so many moments covered in glitter, from props to the set to the audience's hands when they received golden high fives from the cast as they pleaded, "When wilt thou save the people?" The magic of the show literally put into the audience's hands to take out into the world. We had many moments of doubt and disbelief that our community swooped in to steer and support by pushing us back together. Or uncountable moments of laughter in rehearsal, the feeling of joy solidifying bonds that would last long after those short hours on cold winter days in prison. There were eye rolls and grumbles about makeup and glitter, which evolved into all of these people finding ways to cover every inch of their hair and their eyebrows and themselves with glitter, including someone painting that sparkly magic all the way up his thighs so he would have glitter peeking out from his caftan. We had moments of loss together. One man's wife of 45 years died while we were in rehearsal. Holding each other up, our commitment to joy sustaining us through the darkest moments. We found ways to build enormous puppets and beautifully detailed props with care and curiosity, not just for the objects themselves, but for the storytelling they created for us all. There were times the teachings of Jesus became more real to me than I've ever seen in the world before. From the Beatitudes to the promises of the sheep and the, I'm sorry, Fran, goats. When I was in prison, you visited me. Hearing an incarcerated Jesus speak those words to people on the outside formed an underground bond between us and our audiences. And throughout our journey, we pushed the community to be expansive. We learned sign language. We accommodated mobility needs with grace. I earned a sign name, a bond of joy that cannot be broken. The name they gave me goes like this, because we do this all the time in rehearsal, and this is the sign for character. We found God behind the walls, not beyond our grasp and not above our heads, but between us in a world that we created together. And we did, in fact, create a new world together. A world where the work of joy feeds the work of transformation, not in isolation, but in beloved community. One of my favorite philosophers, Donna Haraway, writes that it matters what worlds worlds. It matters what worlds worlds. When I was watching every one of the performances of Godpsell, I found myself swept up in our world, jumping and cheering and clapping and dancing. It was joy embodied. And once when I landed back on the ground, I realized that my graduate work and the promises of suffering weren't offering what I thought. Looking out onto the stage covered in glitter, smiling, singing, gleaming people who had been forgotten about or bracketed by an audience clapping and cheering and surrounded by music and lights, all inside of a prison, I couldn't help but cry. Rooted in that moment of joy, the invisible, the underground union between us, I knew this wasn't for tourists. It wasn't for people who were passing through. It was a world we had worked so hard to create together. And there's some part of it alive in us whose name is forever. It was a world that worlded new realities for those who built the show and those who witnessed it alike. And that is the work of transformation. May it be so. Over our 6 months making this musical, I ended every rehearsal with a circle. A circle to remind us of the wholeness that comes from everyone being seen. And this was the last poem I read after our closing performance.
Everything that was broken has forgotten its brokenness.
I live now in a sky house, through every window, the sun.
Also, your presence,
Our touching, our stories.
earthy and holy, both.
How can this be? But it is.
Every day has something in it whose name is forever.
Blessed are those who do the work of joy, sheep and goats alike, as we work together to world new worlds, to transform, to build a land where justice shall bubble up like effervescent waters. Let's take a big breath in and let it go.